Good evening, everyone. And we are here in Ecclesiastes Chapter 2. As we get into Ecclesiastes Chapter 2, remember yesterday when we left off, we had a couple of definitions that we needed to clear up, one of which is the word vanity, right? Havel. But the other one that I wanted to point out to us this evening is that it is written by um, King Solomon, and he is called the Koheleth, meaning he's the one who is gathering all these words of wisdom and proverbs, and he's laying it out in his ripe old age for us to actually glean from his experiences. Now, when we come into chapter 2, then you begin to see he begins from his viewpoint as a king. When he was king of Israel, what did he do when he looked at things that were under the sun or under the heavens or under the skies? And that's the broad perspective he is actually advising us today as how he sees these things after so many years as king. So he says, I said in my heart, this is something equivalent to, I'm going to talk to myself, right? I'm just speaking in inside of me. That would be the idea. So he says, come now, I will test you with myrrh and therefore enjoy pleasure. But surely this was also vanity. Now, these are a number of Hebrew words that we need to just unpack a little bit. It says, come now. Now, the word try is to prove, right? To prove. Let me prove you with myrrh. The word myrrh here is, I guess you can say joy or gladness. The word mirth is a Old English word, probably. The modern day word would be glee, right? From the show Glee. And so Solomon says, let me just prove you with joy, right? And therefore enjoy pleasure. Now, these words actually doesn't mean exactly this in the English. The word enjoy is to see or to experience. The word pleasure is the word tov, which is good. Things which is right in the eyes of the beholder. In this case, Solomon himself. So he says, come, let me just prove you with joy. And let me see and experience the good side of life. And then he says, but surely even this, he is Havel. Remember Havel? Breathe. Like a vapor. It just comes and it goes. So even the good things in life doesn't last very long. So I said of laughter. Laughter is shakak. And if you're not aware, the word laughter is the base word for Isaac, Yitzhak, right? Because when God told Abraham and Sarah, they laughed because at that age, how would they have a son? And when they actually have a son, they really laugh, and that laugh was really a celebratory laugh. But it's the same word, laughter. And so I said of laughter, madness. But this is not madness. The word here is, I would say, commendable, right? Commendable. It's not madness in our modern day language. So it's commendable. And of the glee, right? I will use the word glee here. just as the same word right here. That's the word mirth and mirth, right? What does happiness or joy, it says accomplish, right? Accomplish. What does it do? That would be the question. So if that's laughter, it's good, right? And of joy, what will it do? What will it do? These are all, I would say, rhetorical questions. So he says, I search in my heart. Now, interestingly, he says he searched in his heart, in the heart of himself, right? So you could use the word search here as spy or explore. And Solomon is exploring within himself. Now, the word heart has always been referring to the mind, right? The seat of choice. How to gratify my flesh with wine, while guiding my heart with wisdom, and how to lay hold on folly till I might see what was good for the sons of men to do under heaven all the days of their lives. And so Solomon was saying, oh, let me just check in myself. How do I, in this case, gratify my flesh with wine? Now, the word gratify may, I guess you could say, attract, right? Attract my flesh with wine, and wine would be the alcoholic beverage, and in this case, intoxicating. And people in those days drink wine, right? So he was saying, oh, let me just drink some wine as I drive my heart. Guiding is to lead or to drive my heart with wisdom, and how to seize. The word seize here would be to take hold, to lay hold, to seize. Now, this is a word which I think all of us must pay attention, because the word here is folly. Folly would be silliness. And the word here, folly, and then later on we'll read about fool and stuff like that. Please do not have the English dictionary in mind, because it does not mean the same English word that we read in the English text. That I might see what was good. No, good is tov, agreeable. For the sons of Adam, and this would be talking about humanity, under the sky, all the days of their lives. And so you remember yesterday, I had said that this is where we are. The land, and then the skies. And of course, we have the sun. And so that's the view that Solomon has, looking at all of his life, and he wants to find out what good advice can he give humanity. Now, he's been the most powerful king, and obviously he has God on his side, and God has given him wisdom and insight and discernment. And after all these years in life, what can he actually say? And you will be very surprised at the end of this chapter. Now, look at what Solomon talked about himself, right? I read all this. I did all this. So what he did was great. He built many houses, planted many vineyards. Otherwise, where will he get his wine? He planted gardens and orchards, which are fruits, right? And planted all kinds of fruit trees in them. Made myself water pools. Now, understand this. Israel is not a place where you have water everywhere. And so when there is rain, they collect water, and then they channel water to all these gardens, when they plant trees, right? The vineyards, all these need water. And so when you go to, I guess if you go to Jerusalem, you would see the pools of Solomon, right? Which he made to water the growing trees of the grove. And that he had, so all these that's Solomon himself, had male, female servants, had servants born in my house, which means that these are the ones in the next generation. Yes, I had greater possessions of herds and flocks. Remember, wealth is not measured by shares you have in companies. In those days, wealth is measured by how many herds and flocks of cattle, of camels, of oxen, of all these animals, of sheep and goats and stuff like that. Then all who were in Jerusalem before me. Now the word before me, to my face, everybody who is there, he has more. I have also gathered for myself silver and gold, and that's money in those days, and the special treasures of kings and of all the provinces, which means that besides Israel, Solomon also had provinces outside of Israel who gave him things. And it's very much like how kings were in those days. I acquired male and female singers, and he loves songs, right? The delights of the sons of men, musical instruments of all kinds. And here we can see that he really did many things and enjoyed life. And so he became great. I became great. I excelled. Now, the word excel means he added. He added more than who were before me in Jerusalem. And also my wisdom, Chokhmah, remained with me. So his intuition, his ability to learn things, to look at things, to discern things, to understand things, that's his wisdom. And so he says, whatever my eyes desired, I did not keep from them. Eyes desired. Wisdom is gained from experience. It's also gained from perception. And he learns these things. He can see. I did not withhold my heart from any pleasure, for my heart rejoiced in all my labor, and this was my reward from all my labor. Now, the understanding of labor in verse 10 literally means things that he toiled. Right? He toiled. Now, you may ask, oh, he's a king. What does he need to do? Well, to a king, the things that he has to sweat himself, that he worries about, right? The things that he worries, that's his labor. And in all of these things, he considered his reward. What is a reward? The reward means his share. That's the meaning. Something that he gives himself. Something he allots to himself. For what I've done, well, I think this is good for me. Then I looked on all the works that my hands have done. Even a king does things. And the word work here would be his achievements. By his hands. Look, the word is looked, right? Looked. His eyes can see. And on all the labor. Yes, the word labor is the same as this word labor, right? The toils which I had toiled. And so you can see this as an A and a B. And his conclusion was this, and indeed, all was vanity and grasping for the wind. The word grasping, remember, it is longing, it is trying to feed on it, it's trying to grab at something, and it's nebulous and brief. Indeed, everything that he has, it is brief. There is no advantage under the sun. And Solomon was under the sun. There is no advantage. Now, you must understand what he means by advantage. Now, to us, we may think that, well, as a king, you get everything, and we are poor, we don't have anything. How can you say that everything is brief, everything is the same? Well, you need to see from where Solomon is getting at. And he explains himself in the next couple of verses. He says, then I turned myself to consider wisdom, madness, and folly. Now, again, the word madness here is, in other words, it is, how would you say, madness, something that it doesn't quite mean madness. It means more of folly. And it really comes from the word to shine. So if you look at the word folly, yeah, I think folly is a good word. Folly. And the next word here that is translated as folly, this is silliness. And he always looks at three things, right? A 1, a 2, and a 3. And he considers that as something that he can measure. For what can the man do who succeeds the king? Succeeds the king is come after. Means that this is the next king, right? What can this man do who succeeds the king only to do what is already done? Remember? It's a cycle. It's a cycle. Then I saw that wisdom excels folly. The word excel here means has more advantage. Advantage. Why more advantage? Because wisdom is something you can use, and folly is something that you don't. And so, as light is better than darkness, that the wise man's eyes are in his head, but the fool walks in darkness. Yet I perceive, myself perceive, that the same event happens to them all. So he was saying, yes, it's good to be able to see, but yet at the end of the day, the same event happens to everyone. Who is everyone? The wise and the fool. Now in verse 14, when we talk about fool, you must understand that this is an arrogant one, and one who doesn't know God. So don't look at the word fool like a clown or a modern day word. The idea here is a wise man always knows God, and a fool doesn't. And although the eyes are in his head, one walks in darkness and one walks with clarity. But Solomon says, yet I myself perceive that something is going to happen, and it will happen to all of us, whether wise or fool. And in verse 15, he says, so I said in my heart, as it happens to the fool, it happens to me. What is this? What is this that will happen to both Now, this is wisdom. And why was I then more wise than I said in my heart? This is also vanity. Now, I know our Bibles will say vanity is useless, right? Is of no use. Well, let's continue to use this word brief. Because whether you're wise or you happen not to believe in God, life is still short. For there is no more remembrance of the wise than of the fool forever. Understand the word forever. In verse 16 is olam. And so remembrance is people don't remember the wise nor the fool when the time comes. Since that all that now will be forgotten in the days to come. So how does a wise man die? Just like the fool. That's his wisdom. That's the wisdom of Solomon. He's not talking about any other thing. So the one thing that when we read the book of Ecclesiastes is the context. The context is about, when a wise man dies and the fool dies, it's the same. It happens to both. Both will die and both will not be remembered. And so he says this. Therefore, I hated life because the work that was done under the sun was distressing to me for all its vanity and grasping for the wind. We see these words again. But let us unpack this word hate. Again, this is one of those other words that I would ask all of us to refrain from thinking English and to take the English dictionary and put it aside. The word here, hate, is not to detest or the opposite of love. He finds it very, very disturbing. He turns away and around it. That's what it means. The word sane in the word hate does carry meaning like, when you come to a thorn bush, what do? You don't push through it, you go around it, you avoid it. And so therefore, I hated life gives you a picture of being very disturbing, to walk away, to avoid. The work. What work? In verse 17, the word work here would be the pursuit. The pursuit of life, the things that we do. Under the sun was distressing. Was distressing. The word distressing actually means wrath or evil. It doesn't sound right to me. And that would be the word distressing or evil. Because it seems that it's all so nebulous. You can't figure it out. So now again, let me just point out to you this word. It should be an A and a B. Grasping for the wind and vanity. It is brief. It is nebulous. You can't hold on to it. Then I avoided all my labor which I had toiled under the sun, because I must leave it to the man who will come after me. The man who will come after me. Remember, the picture of come after in verse 18 is to come behind. The word behind. Now, yesterday we had talked about this word after, Because in the Hebrew, remember, if this is a person and this is the front, come after is the behind. Behind is the future. Front is the past. What you can see is already over. And so come behind me would be the ones that will come to replace me. He says, whatever I do, all my labor that I toil under the sun, I must leave it to the one who comes after me. Now, who knows whether he be wise or a fool? If he's wise, he'll take good care of it. If he's a fool, he will squander it. And then he says, yet he will rule over all my labor, which I toil and which I have shown myself wise under the sun. Everything that Solomon has done, the next guy is up to him to do what he wants. And so Solomon says, this is vanity. Therefore, I turned my heart and despaired of all the labor which I had toiled under the sun. Verse 20, when he says despair, the idea here is to, I guess you can say to feel hopelessness, feel hopeless of everything that he has done under the sun, everything that he has accomplished under the sun. Why? Look at what he says in verse 21. I'll change the color. For there is a man whose labor is with wisdom, knowledge, and skill. All these are good things. Yet he must leave his heritage. Verse 21, and the idea of heritage means his portion, his share, whatever is left, to a man who has not labored for it. And that is his picture that he's trying to show, that he's going to die, and whatever he leaves behind is for someone to enjoy the fruits of Solomon's labor or the man's labor. And this is the wisdom. He says, this is vanity and a great evil. Vanity is, life is so short, you finish everything, but you don't get to enjoy it. That is where Solomon is coming from. He worked so hard, but it is left for a man who has not labored for it. It is vanity. It is like what do you call it? A mist, a breath that comes and is gone. And he says it's great evil. Ra'ah. It doesn't make sense. It's not agreeable to me. And so he continues to ramble. For what has a man for all his labor, for the striving of his heart? He wants to do this, do that, and he has toiled under the sun. For all his days are sorrowful and his work burdensome. Take a look at this. In verse 23, these are two similar words. Sorrowful, pain. And then the other word is burdensome, grief. And so this would be an A and a B. That all his days, that's not very pleasant. And at night, he cannot take rest because he's working so hard. He worries about this, worries about that. And says this is also vanity, nebulous. This is a breath. That is what Solomon observes. Now, as we come to the last section in chapter 2, this is the surprising twist of his wisdom. In verse 24, he now concludes this: nothing is better. The word better is tov, and that's good, right? Nothing is more agreeable for a man. This would be mankind. Then he should eat, drink, and that his soul should enjoy good in his labor. This also I saw was from the hand of God. Now, I hope this doesn't shock you or surprise you, but this is the verse. This is the wisdom that Solomon is saying. You know what? Nothing is better to mankind, to humankind. He must eat. He must drink. Now, eat and drink sounds very oriental. You know, if you come from an Asian culture, everything we get together is about eating and drinking. And so the Hebrew people does that as well. So if you can eat and you can drink, and that you should enjoy good in his labor. That's tov as well. Whatever your labor brings about, that it's nice, it's good, it's agreeable. And what do you mean by enjoy? The word enjoy literally means to see, to experience the good. Let your nefesh, your person, right? Your entire soul, just make this agreeable to yourself. You have earned this, and why leave it to the next generation? So he says, I saw. He could actually see that this is the hand of God. God has blessed the fruit of your labor. You have worked hard. You have toiled. You have been busy. You have rested. But you know what we haven't done is that we haven't eaten and drank and experienced the good of your labor. That is what it means. Experience the good of your labor. Of course, the English word here is to enjoy. The picture that Solomon is saying that there's nothing wrong about to enjoy what you have, not what you don't have, right? Eat and eat well, drink and drink up, and experience every part that is good that you have labored for. That is the hand of God. And that is something which he has come to his senses after he's seen all the vanity, right? And that is grasping the wind. All this is brief. It's like a breath. It comes and it's gone. So why not that we enjoy all these things? It is good because it is a blessing from God. It's from his hand. For who can eat and who can have enjoyment? The word enjoyment here means to be excited, right? Excitement. And so you eat and have excitement. Now, I'm not sure whether we catch the picture. If you don't get to eat, you don't see the excitement of eating. If you've been dieting or you've been fasting or you have not been eating well for many days, the joy of eating comes from not able to have it. And so that is the excitement. And so Solomon said, who can enjoy this eating and enjoy the excitement more than I? For God gives wisdom and knowledge and joy to a man who is good in his sight. Now, I need to break this down. God gives wisdom. Wisdom would be insight of life, okay? And you get experience, knowledge. And then the word joy in verse 26. Joy literally means glee, right? We use back the same colloquial word, glee, pleasure, being happy. God gives this to a man. What man does he give to? This would be mankind. Not just Solomon, but mankind. What is tov? In his sight, in the eyes of God. This word in verse 26 is important. To the face of God. that God can actually see. God will give mankind good things if he can see him being good. But to one who is a sinner, the one who miss what God tells him to do, he gives the work of gathering and collecting. These are the two same similar words, an A and a B, that he may give to him who is good before God. So the one who is missing, who is not obeying God, will be the one who is contributing to the one who is tov before God in his face. And so the idea here is you must always realize this is vanity, grasping for the wind. It is brief and it is nebulous and it is fleeting. And so what Solomon is saying is that this is what God wants to give. Because if a man who is tov in his sight, meaning a man who is doing what is agreeable in the face of God, enjoy. But to one who doesn't, that means is not tov before God, then he may contribute to those who are doing good. And essentially, Solomon is saying, if you are not doing what God tells you to do, then what is there to enjoy? I think that would be the expression that he has made. So let me just wrap this up today. At the end of this chapter, Solomon, in his great wisdom, looks at life. He's got so much, and yet everyone dies. The fool dies and the wise dies. And everyone is working so hard under the sun, toiling and worrying and busy with life. This is vanity. This doesn't work well. Well, as a king, he does the same. As a commoner who goes out to work, they get the same. So in his conclusion right here, nothing is good for a man that he should eat, drink, and enjoy, experience the good of his labor. It is from the hand of God. And I think this would be a very good summary. When you are right with God, when we are agreeable in God's eyes, when we're doing what he tells us to do, there is time to enjoy the fruit of our labor. That is what Solomon is trying to say. Because otherwise, we are no better than anyone else. We'll be leaving this for the next generation who never had labored. And so why did we work so hard for? And that would be the picture that Solomon is giving. Now, he has to leave this kingdom to the next person. And we always leave something to the next generation. But he's not saying that we should squander everything away and leave nothing. He is saying that we should actually take time to smell the rose, to enjoy our lives a little. It is coming from God. He blessed the labor of our hands and is good for us. Why not? Eat well, drink well, enjoy the good. Let your soul enjoy. So it is not like partial, feeling guilty. This really means let your soul go and enjoy what God has given to us. And that is how Solomon comes to this conclusion at this point in time. Now, with this, we come to the end of chapter 2.